Thank you for tuning in to Realtalk101, where we have real conversations with our local Glam Soirée boss babes. And today our special guest is Cara Marie Boudoir.
Hi.
We are so excited to have you, Cara.
I'm so excited to be here.
So let's get started. So what inspired you to start on this amazing boudoir photography, business owner, educator journey?
Well, I would say that the short answer is that I was sick of working for someone else. There was a lot of frustrations involved I was always in sales. And I loved working with customers and clients and assessing their needs and understanding what they were interested in and actually delivering on that in a non-salesy way. And I was really good at it. But then, my superiors and company policies would always kind of get in the way. Like, did you do your cold calls? I'm like, I'm not going to, no, I didn't. So it was very frustrating for me. But the slightly, I guess, longer answer was that I just, in the midst of all of that, working as a salesperson and understanding that, the rewards that I would reap matched the efforts that I put in, and I loved that because I always put in max effort all the time. And I had my first son, and I just didn't want to be slaving away for something that could disappear, and I just knew that I wanted to be in business for myself, and I didn't know what that meant. And I'm a very impulsive person, and so I don't necessarily think that this is a manual for how to start your own business, because it's probably the worst possible thing I could tell you. But I was sitting in my sales cubicle, and I was like, well, I should go into business for myself. What should I do? What am I good at? Nothing really. like sales. I was good at sales for all of the reasons that, you're not going to find in any sales manual whatsoever. But I've always had an interest in photography, certainly never knew how to take a picture professionally by any means. But that was kind of the one career path that kept coming back to me. And my one brainstorming session for the rest of my life was this one little brainstorm in my sales cubicle on a Friday. And I was like, I've got to get out of here. And so I kept circling back to photography. And by the end of the day at that job, I had scribbled out, my name, my business name, which was some gimmicky, kitschy kind of catchy name, and decided that was it. And I left work and I went to Best Buy and I bought a camera, and I went home and I enrolled in photography school. And my husband came home from work, and he wasn't my husband at the time, but he came home from work, and I said, I'm going to be a photographer. And he was like, okay, because he knows me and he knows that I am very impulsive like that. So it was very much like that, and it was all in from that point forward. So, cool. And I don't think that that's how anybody should start a business, but that was how I did it. And I knew that for my personality type, that would work. So I just went all in, and I shot everything because I had no idea what I liked or what I was good at naturally, and I had to learn a whole bunch because I didn't know anything, and I set my fees accordingly, of course, and did a lot of trade work and shot weddings and family portraits and maternity photos and literally everything, and found out very quickly what I wasn't good at and what I didn't like, and I just kept kind of honing in, and I found out very quickly that my knack was for working with women one-on-one, whether that be, maternity portraits or bridal portraits or motherhood type of photos, or, eventually boudoir was what I got into. And it just really kind of, once I figured out that was where I wanted to be, and I found that because of the way that I felt when I was working with that client, and then the way that I felt when I witnessed what it did for their lives after that. Mm-hmm. Because more than any other genre of photography that I had worked with, working one-on-one, photographing a woman in an intimate type of setting, whether it be beauty or boudoir or fine art nude, it was so empowering for them, and it was really amazing to see their confidence build up. And women don't get to see themselves like that, and it's very hard for them to do so. So I really quickly determined that that was my thing. That was my one thing. We relocated to Austin, Texas. We were in Erie, Pennsylvania. So I had actually grown a pretty substantial, very fast business for myself in a very small city with a really horrible economy and a place where kind of small businesses would flail and flop all the time. But my husband and I both had our own little hustles, and we did so well for that area that we knew we could do it in a bigger market. So we relocated here in Austin, and I had an in-home session with a 60-year-old woman, and she chose to do like a fine art nude session. And it was so cool because she just kind of threw off her robe and was like, "It is what it is, honey." And I was like, "I love you and I love this, and that's amazing." So I had this session with her, and at the end of it, she got very real and raw with me, and she teared up and she said, "I just want to let you know that I haven't felt seen in a very long time." And that is something that I, like now that I'm all these years into my career, that I've noticed in working with women above the age of 40 is that, you know, we lose them in the media. We lose hearing from them. We lose them, you know, they're not hiring 60-year-old actresses very often unless they're aging them and making them grandmothers. And like that is not the end of your life at that age. That is still young. You have so much left. So she, you know, poured her heart out and told me how much it meant to her and how she felt seen and beautiful and, you know, worthy. And I cried my whole drive home, and I got home and I sat down at the kitchen table and I said, "This is what I'm going to do all the time." And my husband was like, "Yeah, I believe you." I do tend to get very impulsive and do things, but he did ask, you know, "Is there really a market for that full time?" And I said, "I'll make one." And I did. And so that was just whether you call it the universe or fate or just a matter of really listening to yourself and listening to what you should be doing and following that path. I was definitely drawn towards photographing and working with women in some capacity. And as far as the educating side, that was actually that was not impulsive at all. I resisted it. I kicked and screamed the whole way. I did not want to be a photography educator. And mostly just because I had it in my head that was just, you know, the step that a lot of photographers take before they're ready to, just to kind of make a buck. So I had that in my head with negative connotations, and it wasn't until my mentors and people that I really looked up to and learned from and admired were like, "You need to do this because it's not about the technical aspect with you. It's about teaching other photographers how to do this for women and make them feel the way that you make them feel." And that has nothing to do with the camera settings. It has everything to do with the experience and the psychology behind it. So yeah, that's how we got here.
I agree with her on that. I've shot with her and I just felt like so comfortable. So yes, it's so true. You're such an artist at what you do.
Thank you. I love it.
I know you do.
I love it.
I love what you said about resisting it a little bit and having
a
the hobby of photography. But what did you take to hone your craft and become a master in photography?
I don't call myself a master in photography at all, but I will say it's kind of like when you're a teenager and you think that you know everything and you have no experience whatsoever, but you're just hot shit and you just, you know, the world bows at your feet and you know everything there is to know about everything. And then as you age and you learn, you realize how much you don't know. And that was very much what it was like for me with photography. It was, you know, I started and I'm like, I'm not bad at this. And of course, looking back at my old work, I'm like, oh my God, I charge people for that. It's horrible. It's horrible. I was just giving a presentation. Well, not just, it's been a while now, but one of the last presentations that I gave on stage, I poked fun at myself and I pulled up my original work and showed how far I've come in a relatively short period of time. And it's not because I got to a certain stage and said, okay, I'm a master. It's because literally every day I'm like, I could have done that better. What could I do to make this better? So I'm still every single day learning something new, whether it is, okay, I don't know, what does this kind of light do? And I just look up a YouTube video, or if I enroll in a class for 1 month, there's photographers that are, my peers, and I've become friendly and friends with them. And I'll show up to their workshops and they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm here to learn from you. And they're like, why? Like, because I'm here to learn from you. Because I honestly, when I'm teaching classes, I learn something from my students every single time. Mm-hmm. They'll teach me something about my camera that I didn't know that it did, mm-hmm. Or like a new pose or like a technique. So closing yourself off to learning more is the biggest disservice you could do for yourself. So I think now that I know all that I don't know, it just fuels me to continue to learn more and more. So it's just been a constant learning experience, and looking up things that I don't understand and pushing myself and setting projects and goals and all of that and not stopping.
I love that. So it's like you're always evolving.
Always.
And growing. Yeah. I love that so much. So if you were to write a book about your life's purpose, what would the title be and why?
It would be something along the lines of how confident women can change the world. I've witnessed the power of, whether it be through photography or through just the experience itself, and showing a woman how powerful and amazing she is, having nothing to do with her appearance. Just because I focus my entire message on, first of all, do it for you. Don't do it for somebody else. This is for you. And also, it doesn't have to be about, a makeover transformation or your wardrobe. It doesn't have to be about that every single time. I want you to be able to look in the mirror without any makeup on when you first wake up out of bed, and like your robe's hanging off of your shoulder, and you're like, dang, look at me, like that woman, it is what it is, honey, and I'm glorious. And I've watched the power of that, and it's not just for that woman. It affects everybody she touches. It's everybody in her household. And if those people are feeling confident and inspired, that is going to pass on to the next and the next and the next. So I've watched how a very meek and modest and timid and afraid to speak out woman has gone from never, so much as putting nail polish on her nails because she didn't want to draw the attention. And she would wear, shirts buttoned up to here and like long skirts. And she would always get asked if she was Mormon or Amish, because that was how she carried herself, was very like she didn't want to be seen. And I watched her transform from the time that we were talking about her photo session to like all of a sudden she's like maybe dressing a little bit nicer, or throwing a curl or two in her hair, and it put a pep in her step, so much so that her husband actually thought that she was having an affair. And she actually had to let the cat out of the bag because she was buying lingerie and she was skipping around and wearing makeup, and it didn't look good, but it changed her entire life. And I always remember that one woman, and she was a client of mine 7 years ago, and I check in on her every now and then, and she's just so like empowered, and she has such a strong voice now, and her husband is just like over the moon, because she's really like, it took until she was in her 50s, but she has come into her own, and she's comfortable and confident in her skin, and that is a magical power. I mean, that is something that it touches everybody that you know, and it keeps going, and I think that is just, it's magic.
I love that, and I love the title. Perfect title.
So your story is so inspiring, and I feel like you live to inspire others. So just tell us how we can find you.
Well, it's hard not to. If you're looking for me, you can find me. So my favorite platform of choice is Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Cara Marie Studios. It's KaraMarie Studios. You got that part. And then my website is the same, caramaristudios.com. All of the education that I have to offer is on my website as well. Those are the two best places to find me. I'm also on Facebook, but I don't really... You don't want to bother with that,
Thank you,
beautiful.
Cara.
Thank you.
And for all you do,
Thank you.
seriously, empowering women is, I don't know. It just
that's why we're here.
Yes.
I'm here because of you.
Yes.
So, yes. Thank yous all around.
Thank you.
you.